Welcome to the first official Hokey Podcast. This podcast is a several-part series documenting the events and the posts of Hokey. I'm Elijah Ward, and here's my co-host, James Burns.
Hello there.
Today we're going to discuss, just the prologue, how we came up with the idea of Hokey. So, I'll just start by saying that Hokey, I personally believe, really connected, some parts of the student home. And I think Seamus can describe more about, because he was the one who started it originally.
Now, before I start with the history of the creation of Hokey, Elijah, I would like to ask you, what was your impression of the student home when you first came in?
So during the summer, I'd been kind of frightened, because someone who worked there, I think who dated Gian, who is a alumni, told me that he hated the student home. And I got really scared from that. So I had this negative impression of the student home, and I just honestly believed that it was going to be worse in middle school, because I had a pretty good middle school student home. So I'd always had this impression that the house parents weren't very good, and that it was just worse, and it wasn't enjoyable. But as Hokey, as it came about, I honestly began enjoying it for some factors that we'll discuss in a couple minutes.
So, I came into the student home this year during the summer, and especially at the end of last year. I came into it kind of afraid of what the school year is going to turn out. Because last school year, it was a living hell for me. I just didn't feel connected to the student home at all. I didn't feel any real connections to anyone, and I feel like Hokey really I would say it changed the school year for me.
I feel like it made me more positive and willing to be a part of the student home. And last year, it was you've told me many times that it was really bad.
Yeah, last year
you didn't really
it was a horrible year.
Have any motivation.
There was just a lot of negativity in the air.
Yeah.
My sophomore year, and I was scared it was going to carry over into my junior year, and I was not looking forward to that at all.
Yeah.
And Hokey, I've said this before, but it was used, I would say it was kind of a coping mechanism for for the student home, because I know there was negativity still in the air a little bit. It was still there because the new freshman was, the freshmen. I mean, no offense, Elijah, but the freshmen.
It's all good.
They complain a lot, and they're not used to the rules, and they have to vent.
And also,
which I understand completely. But Hokey, I think it was a positive coping mechanism too.
Precisely.
To block out the negativity.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also believe there was some sophomores who made one sophomore in particular.
We're not gonna name any names, but there was this one
sophomore who eventually left the student home. But
bad apple.
When he was there, he was pretty negative and he was pretty toxic, to be honest. But we'll discuss the events of that.
We will get to that.
Yes, this is just
when the time comes in a future episode.
Just thank you for subscribing to this podcast, and we really are glad that you are really indulging in the events of Hokey.
Yeah.
We're just excited for you to be here, and this is going to be a very interesting series.
So we've established that the reasons we made the reason I made Hokey was I was inspired by a good friend of mine, Jonah Ward, which just so happens to be Elijah's older brother, who just recently graduated today. And he had an Instagram account, quote-unquote fan page, for the student home, his old student home, Menno. And quite frankly, I thought it was a hilarious idea, and I think it could have been really something, And, during the summer, I, and along with a group of other friends, created a network of, fake Instagram accounts used to entertain us throughout the summer, which I spent a hefty amount of the summer doing, which I don't want to admit, but that's just what happened. And it started off as just one of them, and I didn't see it becoming as big as it came, And I just thought of it one evening when it was the evening before. Yes, it was way early. I'm looking at the post. August 2nd, 2018. That was the day I created Hokey.
That was one of our first days in Oakridge when we first met each other and began to understand our we were pretty similar people, and I thought we'd be good friends. We were roommates, and we just came together. Well, it was mostly Seamus who created it, but
Yeah.
I really,
It became a part of Eli because, well, parts of the school year I didn't have my phone because I was on
exactly
striving.
a lot.
But
yeah.
he had to do the bulk of the posting for several months or so.
And I just feel like overall we just had this idea and we just sort of it. We really came together. We became creative. We even made a party after a stupid Instagram account.
Yeah. But hey, we'll get to that.
Yes.
We'll get to that. But I created it like a few days before the like Compass Project thing, where all the student homes had to come together in like Copenhagen Gym or something. And we were, this was a few days before. And this was like the first post that like, it was during the Mr. Ellis era, but during like the beginning of the era, which lasted like a week or two.
Before we get there, I think we should, before we get to the post, which is going to be in our first episode, chapter 1, the beginnings.
Humble beginnings.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to get to that next episode. We'll come with a better title. So, the name Hokey Okie. How did you come up with that name?
I'll be honest, I didn't really have any like real connections to it. Like I didn't really like base it off anything, to be honest. It just popped up into my head and I was like, hey, it rhymes and it sounds like the Hokey Pokey. And I was like, that's kind of funny, actually, you know.
And for those who don't know, the Hokey Pokey is a famous dance / song that people really like to dance to.
50s or whatever.
It's very famous in middle school dance class.
Yeah, and so I just like, I don't know, I just have a thing for like creating like catchy names, like stupid names like that. And I wouldn't say catchy, but it's just stupid names like that. Yeah. So I just chose that as the name. And it sucked, and people liked it. I was like, at first, I didn't even like the name. I hated it. But then I asked other people in the student home, like Xavier, and everyone else liked it, really.
I personally thought it caught on. When you first heard about it, I mean, I was wearing my Compass shirt, and you asked me to take a photo, and I was slightly confused. You told me about it. I liked the idea. We went in the rec room, asked people if they wanted to support it, and no one wanted to support it. Except like Xavier, which I'm fine with because eventually we got him all involved.
That was the humble beginnings. Like,
exactly.
Which history would repeat itself later on.
Which we honestly thought the account was not really gonna do anything. We like a lot of these fake Instagrams that my brothers, my friend Seamus, who's also on this podcast. Thank you, Seamus, for being here. By the way,
hello, thank you.
Yes, and some other people, Tim Burge, would create these fake Instagrams that failed, and I personally, the Hokey Okie use some of our values like grit, grind, gratitude to succeed, which we'll get to that later on as well.
That's a classic. That's a classic post.
But I feel like we use adversity to especially keep grinding out these posts because sometimes it was hard and you lost motivation. And we just recently got off a couple of months of not posting. And I'm glad we're back in it. It's very satisfying to be back in the game.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into our reasoning for that.
Yeah. And I believe that's all we have to discuss in our prologue today. And we'll see you in chapter 1. We really hope you continue watching. And I believe, personally, that the Hokey Okie podcast is going to be really interesting because you're going to learn why we posted this. Some of these posts are so random and just kind of cringy. But there's a story behind every single one of our posts. And my friend Seamus, who's using the bathroom right now as I'm recording this, I will discuss our motivation, how the people in the student home responded, and how this got us through the year. And I personally believe that it helped tremendously. And I think the viewer, will realize this in future episodes. So thank you. We'll see you all in chapter 1. Have a good night.